Hello, and welcome to our episode of Revolutionary Rich, where we dive into the depths of expanding wealth and wild overflow from the inside out as I interview change makers, visionaries, leaders who are millionaires or who have reached a seven-figure mark in their work, in their social change work, in their businesses and entrepreneurship, and dive into the wisdom and the magic and the medicine and the raw, real truths that come with that journey of expanding capacity to hold and steward and circulate wilder flow. Today, Tiffany Chung, who I adore from the bottom of my heart, and this woman has made such beautiful, has made such a phenomenal journey, and it's just been such an honor to get to witness what I have gotten to see from our sisterhood, from our friendship, of how you created the life that you created for yourself and for your family, for your daughter, and yeah, all of what it takes. There's only so much that we can ever know from the outside looking in of what it really takes to be able to create the kind of success that is revolutionary, which I know that you are. And the thing that I really love highlighting in this series in Revolutionary Rich is that it's so much about more so than what it looks like on the outside of external success, like who you had to become and the internal shifts and the internal transformation and initiations and all of the growth that the world doesn't even see until then it shows up in the 3D. So I'm so happy to have you here, and I would love for you to get to introduce yourself to our community, and we can dive right on in.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I've been so excited about this and just love how we immediately connected and we align on so many different wavelengths. I just get you, like everything that you talk about and preach in your entire work. It's just like, oh, I feel it on such a soul level. So yeah, I absolutely love being connected with you. So I'm so grateful to be here. I'm Tiffany Chung, and I have built a seven-figure global business and movement after years of being a teen single mom, living off of food stamps, having a really disconnected relationship with money, but also with everything around me in my life. It all started when I was 19 years old, found out that I was pregnant with a boyfriend, that we were already rocky and on and off, deciding to have my daughter, getting kicked out of the house, navigating postpartum depression, and really trying to figure out life in survival mode, working multiple jobs, going to school, and eventually hitting this rock bottom where I was like, this is not how I'm meant to live my life. This is not what I am meant to be doing. I always think, like, when it comes to visionaries and leaders, even if it's a very small part, there's always a part of us that knows we're meant for more.
Oh yeah.
That there's just something bigger. Even in our rock bottom, we're like, this is not how it's supposed to be. So I clung on to that, even if it was like a tiny little speck of knowing that there's something so much bigger that I'm meant to do in my lifetime. And right now I'm running a 4-week mastermind called Move Fast. And that's something I've done since the beginning of my business. I lost my day job, I got fired, and I moved fast. I went immediately into starting my own business, offering things, making money, and then seeing this gets to be a business, right? I had 6 figures in 8 months and then multi 6 figures within the year, and continue to expand, pivoting from social media into holistic business. I'm someone who moves very fast. And I think that is also, like, when we're talking about revolutionary rich, like, you're not sitting and pondering. You're not sitting on analysis paralysis. Yeah, you are not looking around to seeing, like, how's everyone else doing it? Let me get that assurance. Let me get that validation, right? It's about moving quickly, really knowing who you are and letting that come from the inside out, from the heart space, from your identity, in trickling into everything that you do and how you navigate your wealth and how you navigate receiving abundance.
Woo, what an intro. So good. And I feel like one of the things that you're really bringing, which I love so early on in the conversation, because this is a really great place for us to start, I feel like, is how a lot of us, especially, you know, one of the things that we really vibe on is dismantling systemic oppression. And that we're experiencing it being reflected in entrepreneurship, in business, in obviously the world at large, and then how it shows up for people from different identities and different bodies and different backgrounds, and then the journey of liberating ourselves and how money supports that. And so when I hear you say, you know, the beginning of the journey feeling so disconnected from money and from everything, like that's such a perfect example of one of the outcomes of systemic oppression, right? It wants us, it being like toxic capitalism, patriarchy, colonialism, all of those things, racism, wants us to be disconnected from ourselves, wants us to be our power, wants us to be disconnected from each other, because then it's easier for us to be taken advantage of, exploited, XYZ. And so in that vein of reclaiming your connection to money and to your body, to yourself, to the people in your life, to your work, I'd love to get to hear, and I think that this would be so beautiful and valuable for our communities to get to drop into the journey, your money journey of really getting to own that you are someone that was meant for revolutionary richness, that you are someone that was meant to create and expand wealth, going from feeling super disconnected to money to feeling, you know, powerful with money. I'd love to hear, more about your journey in that.
Yes. And it was absolutely a journey. It started with me realizing that I wasn't in a place where I was actually able to hold big amounts of wealth. And starting to realize it didn't even start with money. It started with the abusive relationship that I left, feeling like I was always the victim and there was always a villain. And I was always in that state of things are just happening to me. Why are things always happening to me? Why are things happening in this way? Why are things, you know, always out to get me? And then realizing I am actually attracting everything that's happening in my life. So if I'm attracting the way that I'm living my life currently, that I'm not enjoying, where I'm disconnected with my family, we have this really, you know, just not intimate connected relationship, right? I am constantly blaming all of these things that are happening outside of me. I am, you know, navigating postpartum depression as a new mom with a lot of just like bitterness and frustration as a 19-year-old who all of her friends are going off to college and discovering, you know, who they are for the first time. And here I am navigating, you know, changing diapers and crying while my baby's crying. So one of the first things I did was I am actually attracting and desiring this on some level. And that was really triggering for me because I was like, the first time I heard that it's happening for me and it's not happening to me, I was like, that's some privileged ass shit. Like, what are you talking about? I was like, that's privilege. Moving on. And then the more I sat with it, I was like, oh, wait. Everything is a reflection and a mirror of me and my internal reality. And we can talk about collective shadows and whatnot, but this was a big individual shadow moment for me where it was like the relationship that was on and off that I kept going back to, right? The jobs, the money situation, the friendships, even I was choosing and actively participating in. It was almost like I had woken up in my own life. Like I recognized that I was now an active participant in my own life for the first time at 19.
Yeah.
And that's when I started looking and going, okay, I can shift anything And one of the first things that I started with after my identity was money. I can make more money than I was making. And it had nothing to do with me being a teen single mom. It had nothing to do with me not having a lot of experience because I had, taken time off of college, and then I ended up going back in and finishing. But it was connected in my head to all these things where, growing up as an Asian American woman and education being one of the sole focuses of my childhood, right? It was education and getting good grades and getting a good score on the SAT so that I can get to a good college, so I can get to a corporate job that's going to pay me well. And that was my worth. So when I left college after my freshman year, pregnant at 19 years old, the narrative that I had from my parents who had kicked me out of the house was, I am now going to amount to nothing. Mm-hmm. Not only did I not get into the college that I wanted, or I'm not getting the grades, I also was now not on the trajectory of being able to create any of that at all. Mm-hmm. So when I started to challenge some of those beliefs and start to realize that this is not actually about what these external forces are saying about me, and I can actually create this on my own, from my own personal power, from my own level of identity, I can create money, even if it was just a little bit more, even if it was just navigating, like at that point, asking for a raise or getting multiple side jobs, right? Eventually it moved into me starting a business, charging and disconnecting it from my worth. And instead of like me, this is something that I will say to myself and think is like, instead of me bowing to money, I learned to make money bow to me.
Ooh.
Yes.
Ooh.
And it started to like, it's like, I love the words declare and command. I teach that a lot in manifestation. It's not like please and wishing and hoping. It's like, I'm commanding money. I know how to influence money. Right. And so one of the first things that I did was, okay, I'm attracting this. So if I'm attracting something I don't want, I can actually attract something that I do want. And realizing where I had some kinky subconscious shadows around the abusive relationship and staying in this victim mentality as a young mom, all of these different things. And then watching it shift in real time into, okay, that actually doesn't give me, the kinky subconscious, like get off feelings anymore. And what I actually get to desire now and alchemize that into is wealth because I exist. Mm-hmm. And that's where it started.
I feel like one of the things here that is such a huge part of money work and wealth work that can sometimes get overlooked, at least in this industry, is the shadowy, like,
yes,
me. And so I love that you brought it up, because a lot of the time, my experience, and I'm sure you've had this in your own ways, in like the coaching industry or in the entrepreneurship industry, is like mindset and manifest, but it's not actually getting to the deeper roots that are under the surface and why attracting what we're attracting and the part of us that actually wants it. I love that you brought in the kink, because I'm like, yes, I'm here for the shadowy kinky goodness.
Yes. Yes. I love talking about that.
Yeah, me too. It's like what's actually here under the surface, because the reality of the way that ancestral and systemic and personal, patterns have been passed down, it's like they continue to be repeated for a reason. And it's only, when and I'm witnessing you in this, and I know I've gone through my own journey with this, and I know that there's people who are watching this who are going to resonate in their own way. Like when you keep repeating the same things and you're like, why is this happening? And then there's the reclamation of, oh, like there's a part of me that is getting off on this. There's a part of me that likes this. There's a part of me that like it's attracted to the familiarity of it, that's attracted to the comfort of it because it's what I know, either because it's hot or because it's what I would expect, or because there's some level of like feeling at home, even though that's not what I truly want, like on a deeper soul level, in terms of like the evolution of my absolute highest potential as a visionary, as an artist. And then that's the shift that gets to happen of like, okay, if I know now, if I'm being awakened to, or if I'm being, going through a different phase of enlightenment or of waking up, of if I know that I'm meant to be wealthy and I can stretch myself into a whole new belief system, which is what I'm really hearing that was a big pivotal moment for you, and get to shift the worthiness. And I know for us as women of color, we have unique journeys, but I see this with white women as well. So it's really across all backgrounds, but it happens in different ways of feeling the worthiness in our bodies to hold greater amounts of wealth and to steward greater amounts of wealth.
Yeah.
So that being said, where would you say, when you had, let's say, one of the more significant quantum leaps in your relationship with money, that there was a fundamental internal alchemy shift or belief shift around like, oh, I get to be someone that holds not just, money, but like wealth, like
Yes.
wealth, and to be responsible enough to steward wild wealth in a way that's also serving, the collective, that's serving a community, that's serving people beyond, you and me and this like microcosm of our own world, but really getting to see the way that money and wealth can be used as a tool for liberation, for freedom, for creating options and choice, and beyond what, because we're talking about revolutionary rich, beyond what's expected or what is even like the normal way of relating to money, but like a whole new level of how you get to own being a wealthy woman and letting that be a part of the way that you show up in the world.
Yeah, yes. And I love this question. It's like exactly what I think about when I think about your work and your artistry. And it's been like levels upon levels and layers and layers and layers of this work. So in the beginning, when I started my business, it was just like, can I charge $200 for this 3-month program? And then it was like, wait, like, because when I started as a coach, I didn't know about the coaching industry. I was a blogger. So I had my blog, and I knew all these other bloggers here in the Bay Area. That was my thing. I was a blogger. I partnered with brands. They would pay me per post, and I would post. I didn't know anything about the coaching industry, all of these different things, like the coach speak, like I didn't know it. And in a way, I'm actually really grateful, because I just went in blind and I was like, how hard can it be? Let's go. And I had this like almost like naivety like approach, which actually I think is really supportive sometimes. So when I started, it was just like, okay, I'll just make this up, $200, I guess, right? And then I started connecting. I hired my first coach, my first business coach, and I started like blowing the top off of what I thought was possible, and then looking around and going, wait, people are making $10,000 in a month? I was like, what? And then I was like, people are making $30,000 in a month? $30,000 was the most I'd ever made in a year. In a year. And so I looked around and I was like, wait, are you serious? Is this actually happening? And then I started to calibrate to it, like not where I was making it just yet, but before I started making it, I was like, this is actually possible for me. And I stepped into, I tell my clients this all the time, like, if you can see what's happening in my head, you'd be like, are you good? Like, are you actually connected to, like, their reality is a thing too. Like, it's not for me, like the reality, like society's reality of what happens doesn't even cross my brain. I have my own way of operating. I have my own way of thinking. The word I use a lot for me and my clients and our culture is extraordinary. It's extra ordinary. We are not thinking like normal humans. Yes, we're not thinking like the typical person thinks. We are extraordinary. So this is where that started to build, was like, okay, if I see everyone else is thinking this way, but I actually believe this is possible. So then I started playing with it. Then I started charging like my first $1,000 client. I remember I thought I was like, I like called my mom. I was like, oh my God, like, is Hollywood gonna call me now? Like, I made it. I was like, I made it. Like, my name needs to be in lights now. So $1,000, I was like, okay, And then eventually I think I went from 1,000 to 3,000. And I remember when a client paid me 3,000 in full, I was shook, right? So some of the work that was happening internally was just like, we are the ones that put money on a pedestal.
Mm-hmm.
We are the ones that make it mean all these things about us, right? I can't because this, I can't because all of this resistance that we come up with. And I think it's actually a myth that we have to like, you know, break through understand every single money wound and all of our limitations and understand like alchemizing every single one of them. Like, if we just allow ourselves to move through whatever resistance we feel like is creating, like we can jump. And I know you've done this too. It's not incremental.
Oh, God.
You're going from here to here.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And I think the more that we tell ourselves, well, I can't yet because, oh, well, that's not for me because this, or I've heard like my community or my country, like this is not what we do here. Right. I've worked with clients in tons of different cities, like all around the world, where it's like, you don't understand. Coaching isn't a thing here. Charging that kind of money, it isn't a thing. I'm like, it is for you.
Mm.
You are going to create it. You're going to shift it. You're going to shift the way that that shows up in wherever you are, right? And so for me, when I was shifting out of that, and I'm coming from, you know, my dad taught himself English after he immigrated to the States, after his parents forbid him from doing so. So I have a great grandpa that worked on the San Francisco railroads, who experienced so much racism. He came back and forbade anyone from coming to the States. My dad, the rebel that he is, I get it from him,
Yes.
came out anyway without anyone's permission. So he was teaching himself English, he was bussing tables at a restaurant, and he was going to school and trying to pay it all off. The only one here, right? And so I watched him climb the corporate ladder, experience tons of racism, tons of like, well, no one's going to understand you, or how are you with that accent, right? Like he went through so much and he worked so hard. And that was my reflection of working, of being a business owner.
Mm-hmm.
So there was this level of guilt for making money. There was this level of shame. There was this level of, shouldn't it be harder? And for a time, I did make it harder for myself. We're talking about the subconscious kinky side of things.
Right.
I did make it harder for myself because I thought that's how it needed to be. And then, because we're talking about these levels and layers, the layer beyond that, I remember I had a 30K day, and I remember feeling like I'd broken my own brain because that was how much I made in a year.
Yep.
And I had 3 clients pay me 10K in full, back to back to back.
Yes.
And when that happened for the first time a couple years ago, I was like, whoa, there's something here that has nothing to do with what we think it has to do with. External shifts, getting permission, validation, you know, like conditional power that we place in all these things. And I was able to create that within myself. And so at every single level, it was just like, there's more, there's more, there's more, and there are no limitations. And something that I've been able to kind of anchor into, especially being, I love that you use the word steward of money. I love using that phrase as well, because I see money as like this loop. It's not like in and then out. It's like this. So it's like, it's a flow. It's the flow of money. And we're never going to be able to hold on to all of our money, right? And when we pass, we're not going to be able to take the money with us. We're always stewards of money, right? So it opened me up to be able to, like, now my daughter was able to go to ballet classes, and she'd never been able to do that before because we were living on food stamps and I could barely afford food. And if it was her or me, I would make sure that she was taken care of, right? And now she's able to do all these things. And then last year or the year before, no, it was back when there was a lot of hate attacks on the Asian American community here in the Bay Area. And elderly were not feeling comfortable to leave their homes. And I donated over $1,000 to get these like food, these like grocery, like farm to table boxes out to tons of the elderly. And it was like in all of these moments, these layers and layers of not just expanding my own wealth, but my ability of what this wealth could do for my community and for my people, and knowing that I have the ability to step into this level of leadership and power, because money loves power and leadership and influence and your level of identity. It was like, this isn't just for me, it is for all of us, right? It is this ability to shift my wealth story, but then also seeing abundance as coming in all ways. And then I can also steward it out in all of these ways as well.
Wow. So rich. There's so many pieces here, so many wisdom drops, gold nuggets. And I think, you know, the power to be able to step into the identity and then the leadership that then comes with making it bigger than yourself, making it bigger than ourselves, is one of the things that makes money medicine in the world, right? And I talk about this when I talk about regenerative money and decolonial money, decolonial wealth. Regenerative wealth is that it's serving everyone around me. And this is a really big fundamental shift, I think, that happens. You know, you were bringing in your ancestors into the space, and I think about my ancestors too a lot of the time. And my grandparents came from Mexico, and on my dad's side, they're Black, and there's, you know, a lot of dark history in like the later parts of the lineage, and around the way that we're taught to have that relationship with money, where it's hard. I have to overwork, I have to exhaust, I have to drain, I have to deplete myself, I have to XYZ in order to expand how much money I can have, how much money I can receive. And then the shift that happens when it's like, ooh, I get to actually be a magnet to life-giving wealth, like wealth that is creating life, creating opportunities, creating resource for the people around me. It's such a powerful shift. And I, with leaders, with change makers, with visionaries like ourselves, and with the people that are here, that are watching this live, with the people who are listening to this on the replay, that is such a powerful catalyst to unlock a higher level of wild overflow, of this money being with me is improving the world. And by money coming in through me, by it stewarding through me, by it being circulated through me, and the ways that it's flowing out into the world is better for everyone. And that makes us more magnetic. And it also makes it, I feel like, and I think that you have a similar feeling here, it makes it more easeful and more pleasurable when we're going through those quantum leaps, going through those you know, big initiations of like, oh my God, I didn't even know this was possible. I love how you brought in those numbers, because I had like such a similar experience. I remember I used to stay below the poverty line for like a good chunk of my early 20s. So when I got to the point where I was above the poverty line, and I had to like actually pay taxes instead of like taxes being paid to me because I had overpaid taxes. It was like such a revolutionary thing to have like the first day of the business. Like I remember my first 9K day, which was like a month in my business. It blew my mind. I was like, this is more than I made in a whole year. In a day. And then when we think about our ancestors and being, you know, and here we grow, we use lineage liberators. Like we're here to liberate our lineage. And so this is for us, but it's for the 7 generations back, the 7 generations forward. And I see this in you. You're just such a beautiful model of this, of bringing your grandfather into this space with us, and speaking about your daughter. So you're speaking about the power of you reclaiming your wild wealth, the impact it's had in what you were brought into and what you're creating, and the legacy that's shifted because of you in your embodiment of being wealthy woman. And so, and I think about, you know, just the journey of the way that time collapses. Like we're both super spiritual as well. The way that time collapses with money when we shift what's possible in that way as well. Because I'm like, you know, just had a 60K in 10 days. And I remember being with my mom, who's a single woman, when I was being raised. So I had a single mom. She was busting ass, working so hard and doing everything she could to provide opportunities for me. And that's how much she made in a year. And so it's like, what a revolution. I made in 10 days what my mom used to make in a year as a single mom. And so like the quantum leaping of, stepping into like what is possible for me to be able to receive, and then also the energetics of it. We've been talking more like tangibly and very grounded and earthy, but like more in the like metaphysical and in the quantum realms. It's like, wow, how energy moves with money. One of the things you're talking about is like moving fast, right? And how we're in the wealth world with thinking about compound interest, the way that it returns over time. And it's like all of the time, effort, energy, investment, and devotion to the path, to your greater mission, to your highest vision. It's like it collapsed, and created, the first 30K day that you had a couple years ago. It's like 10K people coming at once, but it wasn't overnight. You know what I mean? It's like this took all of the rewiring. And in my world, we really focus on somatics and nervous system work, but I'd love to hear, the way that your specific angle of the shifting works and with your own body and with your clients and in your community is, rewiring the somatic capacity, your body's ability to be able to receive more than it's ever received before, because historically it didn't feel safe to receive that much love, to receive that much support, to receive that much freedom, to allow for money to be in that kind of, for us to be in that kind of dynamic in relationship with money. And so it's such a powerful conversation, because it's like, oh, the things that I used to be able to create, the things that our parents used to be able to create in a whole year, we can create in a day now. What? Like, this is quite literally creating more life, creating more time, creating more space, creating so many possibilities. I'm getting emotional that we're not even here,
Yes.
And that's a huge aspect of what revolutionary richness is. So, oh gosh, there's so much here. You can pick up anywhere, because I know I dropped a lot of places that I go to.
Yeah.
So
I love that. And I love that, like, every time you speak, it just feels like poetry. But yeah, as you were speaking, I was just thinking about my grandma. I'm one of her caretakers. She's 93, and she will ask me, and she doesn't as much anymore, but she would ask me, like, you're spending this time over here, you're coming over here for lunch, you have to work, time is money, how are you going to make money if you're not spending time in your business? And I was like, so in Cantonese, her I call her Paw, and that just means mom's mom. And I was like, Papa, and I would say this in Cantonese. I'd be like, there's so many ways that my business makes money without me having to be there, right? And she's like trying to wrap her head around how that's possible. I mean, she's seen so much over her lifetime, technology and business, and the way that business has shifted. And, we were talking the other day, and she was like, must have taken so much courage for you to start something and not know where it was going to go, right? And we were having this conversation about, like, yes, but also at every level it gets easier. Now I get to spend all this time with you, right? I get to, like, drop in and have lunch with her. The other time we were making pot stickers from scratch with my daughter. And it's like, this is the kind of richness and wealth that is energetic wealth that my practical wealth has created, but the practical has come from the energetic, and then it becomes energetic again. It's so beautiful.
So good.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, that's what we get to tap into when we're understanding that wealth is beyond, like, where is the money and how do I get the money and why is the money not showing up? It's like, it gets to be this true, genuine, energetic relationship where we are continuously expanding ourselves to receive more and expanding ourselves to hold more, right? Like receiving and holding, and then investing, right? It's like spending, investing, like it's a true cycle.
I love the way that you're highlighting the energetic to the tangible to the energetic again. And one of the things that I really receive from that, and the way that I've been integrating it, in my own business ecosystem, in my community, and I think that this is so valuable for our listeners here. Hi, Andrea. Oh my goodness. I love you. I love reading this comment. Such an honor to work with you, my love. And yes, Tiffany has a grounded, beautiful nervous system. Is how the quality of being. There's an energetic quality of being that shifts the tangible, that allows for money to come in, to grow, to expand, to steward, to circulate, and then that enhances again the quality of being. And for me, that's a huge aspect of what revolutionary richness is, of what regenerative wealth is. It's we started this conversation talking about, one piece of it was the disconnect that is very prominent in certain dynamics and in culture at large. And then the difference between disconnect is quality of connection, like intimacy of connection. And when you bring in your grandmother, it makes me think of my grandmother too, and the ways that the quality of connection that we get to create with ourselves, with the people that we love, and with the experiences that we're having, that is wealth to me. Like that is wealth, to have that depth of love and presence and care for people that we're in, to be able to cultivate those relationships with a new depth that I think is not available when we're distracted, when we're in the old patterns of having, like scarcity or lack or survival programming. When that's the operating system in the mind or in the body, in the nervous system, the whole purpose of that is to not feel empowered in our presence. So what a reclamation to be like, oh, my presence is a gift, and in the quality of my presence, allowing for money to support that, to get more juicier and richer, and to be a gift to the people that we surround ourselves with, and the people that we get to support, not only in our families and in our work, but how you even brought in like in your community at large, of like, I can steward direction, and I can see how it's directly improving the quality of other people's lives. So I love that you brought that in. It's so good.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And it's like when we understand that, I heard someone say that, like, I want you to make so much money and realize that you don't actually like need it to be this most powerful, abundant version of yourself. Because when I wasn't making any money, all I could think about was money.
Yep.
All I can think about was how money would solve that problem, and money would solve this problem. And if I just had enough money, and if I could just pay this bill, and then I would stress. I remember whenever the first would start coming up, it was like the 28th, 29th, 30th, my body would literally go into this like, oh my God, how am I going to pay for rent? Who do I need to ask this time?
Mm-hmm.
How am I going to be able to pay them back? What do I have to do? And thinking of, and then actually doing like dangerous things to be making money just because my daughter and I needed a place to live, right? And when you don't have money, it's like you think that it's going to solve all of these things. But then when you actually build, because then that's also what, like when I was broke, it was this relationship of like hating money, but then wanting it, right? And it was just always this tug of war. But building this relationship with money, it's like, I'm not depending on it to make me feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not depending on it for my life to keep going. That if I don't have it, or if something falls through, that I'm not okay. It's like money and I now have a much different relationship. And I'm sure you can say the same, and have probably spoken about this in deeper ways. It's like, there's so many ways in which life opens up when we rebuild our relationship with wealth, both practically, energetically, the things that we allow ourselves to receive, and then also the experience of life that we get to have. And it's like, rich people are the ones who say money doesn't buy you happiness, right? Because they know that you're creating happiness within. Mm-hmm. Money comes as a byproduct of who you're being, always, right? And it's always us, when we don't have the money, thinking that money's going to come in and save everything. But in reality, a lot of the times, at least it was for me, it was this cop out to not actually create the safety and the worthiness and the lovability within myself, just thinking that if I had money, then I'd have these things. But then when the money came through, and when, like, right before the money came through, I actually had to find the joy in all the little things, all the little ways that my daughter and I were living this life in this tiny bedroom, and then loving that bedroom, and loving the neighborhood, and loving all the things that we would do together, and like going out to picnics in the park, right? Like all the ways that I found a way to love my life. And then money came in.
Yes. Yeah, you're bringing forward this really powerful piece of wisdom that I always come back to, and I love going deeper in around how money is simply reflection. Like our relationship to money is always a reflection of our inner world and of our inner limitations and our inner liberation.
Yeah.
And the way that you've created wealth for yourself, and the way that I've created wealth for ourselves, and the way that we as women of color and women in these very specific paradigms of reality, I think it's such a great invitation to be able to shift into allowing for money to serve you, for the people that are listening to this, for allowing for money to serve you in the way that you are serving yourself, in the way that you are serving the world. And like that's what a magnification. One of the things that one of my coaches who I really love says is oh my gosh, of course I forget it, right? As I was about to say it, I totally blanked on it. Something along the lines of like money is always going to show you who you are. It's like something along those lines. There's people who have a lot of money but are empty and unfulfilled and unsatisfied and still living in lack. And I see this with multiple 7-figure earners, multiple 6-figure earners, where it's like no amount of money is going to fill what you don't actually have within you.
Exactly.
Versus when you're in a place like where you have that fullness, you have that oneness with yourself, that love, that trust, that security, that stability. Money just amplifies that no matter what your income is. And that's why wealth in my world, of regenerative wealth, it's like it doesn't matter what it looks like, it matters what it is. It doesn't matter what matters, your relationship to it. And you just spoke such really beautiful ways. So thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And it just reminded me that, like, I always like to say money's a magnifier, right? Just like you're saying, like, it shows you who you are. It's like money magnifies the person that you already are. So when we as conscious leaders have been taught growing up or from society that rich people are greedy or bad or mean, it's money just amplifies what's already there. So you with a heart of gold that is here to serve your people and pour back into the community comes into money. I always like to say money in the hands of women of color changes the world. So when you come into money, it magnifies what you already have within you. If someone's already not a great person and is using their resources in a way that doesn't fully serve, right, the greater good, or doesn't really serve themselves and the people around them, like it's very disempowered, money's just going to amplify that. But when someone is in their conscious leadership, right, and you're stewarding money, it only blows it up even further. And so for us, especially the women who are like, oh, but I don't want to feed into toxic capitalism and all of these different ways of creating or investing money that, we have a lot of our own limitations within the systems of supremacy that have already been created in our world. It's like when you become wealthy and rich, that's actually when things shift. It's actually when the structures regenerate and get restructured. It's because of us.
Yes. That's such a powerful place to come to a close. I'm like, I don't want to end anywhere else because that's just such a perfect place. And I would love to have you share any ways that people can step into your world or get to know you better, or anything that you're offering so that people can get to connect with you more intimately if they want to.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for this. This was so much fun. We can go for hours.
Forever.
So we'll definitely be doing more lives. So that'll absolutely continue and evolve this conversation, and so many different conversations I'd love to have with you. But yeah, I spend the most time on Instagram, so you can connect with me here. I love going live, so I've got tons of juicy lives on all of these different topics that I love to go down. I have a podcast, Social Reset Podcast, which is on everything. And this month, I am hosting a 4-week free mastermind called Move Fast. And it's all about the energetics of not being the entrepreneur that's waiting or stuck in analysis paralysis or looking at what other people are doing. You are moving at turbo speed. And when you do, and when you feel the pull, you jump into the investment, you feel the pull, you launch the offer, you sell the thing, you get paid. Money also comes at turbo speeds and evolves and grows. And I just love having these conversations. So that's what's happening in my world. Post about it on my stories and also in link in bio. But yeah, you can check me out over there, and so grateful for this conversation. So thank you.
Welcome. Beautiful. And just one last thing that we usually end off every episode of the Revolutionary Rich series with asking, what does revolutionary richness feel like for you right now in your life? What is feeling most revolutionary rich in your life right now?
That's such a beautiful question. It's like almost making me emotional. This is the first year that my daughter has not had to be at an after school care program for hours and hours after school has ended. I pick her up every single day at 2 p.m. and we get to spend the rest of the day together. And I don't have to rush back from college or from another job that I'm doing. I get to start work early and I get to end it and spend these luscious, spacious days with her, where we get to just be able to do the things that she loves. She's in ballet, she's in swimming, she's doing these activities that light her soul up. And we get to, it isn't just like, okay, I have to pick her up at 5 or 6, rush to get food on the table, dinner on the table, homework, and then bed. It's like, we have almost the entire day that we get to spend together, and nothing feels more rich to me than that, because I did not want to spend these years of her life. She's turning 11 in July. I did not want to spend these years looking back and going, oh my goodness, I had to work, and so I couldn't spend these precious moments with her. Which is very like, you know, and you know a bit of that from your mom. It's like single moms we're very hands-on. They're like, I can't go anywhere. She goes everywhere with me, right? Or it's like, I'm constantly on when she's there. So being able to do that from a place of quality, intentional time, and not just like, hold on one second, like the stove is on and let me answer this and let me do all these things. It's like, I actually get to give her my whole undivided attention. I've never been able to do it in this way before. And that feels absolutely revolutionary rich.
Yeah, it does. It's so beautiful. Yeah. Thank you for sharing this and sharing all of your magic and medicine and being an honored guest. I love you so much, and I'm so grateful for you and looking forward to all that's to come.
Yes, love you so much. Thank you for everyone who came on, and this is such a beautiful conversation. Thank you again for having me on.
My pleasure. Bye, my love.
Bye.
All right. So for those of you that have gotten to drop into this series, thank you so much for being present. There are more on the way. There's episodes that have already been coming out. And so if you haven't tuned in until now, you can drop into any of the episodes that are already recorded, and you can drop into all of the future episodes. This is a regular series where I'm going to be continuing to interview millionaires that are making big moves and creating collective liberation through their phenomenal work, and sharing the synergy of our work in the way that it's really creating transformative change in the world. And right now, we are in the pre-party for Wild Overflow, my wealth mind. So if you are desiring to step into a space where you're receiving an overflow of support, somatic support for your wealth growth, then Wild Overflow is for you. And my first free 3-day wealth portal is coming up April 23rd through 25th. It is absolutely free. Edge of Expansion for a limited time before the price rises to $333. So if you are ready to step into a space that's going to hold you and going to give you some really potent wealth codes over a 3-day portal, this is the space for you. And you can join through the link in my bio or through DMing me edging on Instagram. So sending you so much love and blessing the rest of